Just karibu to everybody. Welcome to Connected 22nd edition. I have a different question to one of the hosts. It's directed at Michael. I will take it up with my marketing team. I was not invited to the golf. And for those who do know me, it is my favorite sport. It is the great leveler of the game of golf that even though you think you are ahead, the white ball chooses on the day. And I think, for many factors, it is also a game for us to talk about today, which is the future of work. So I think being an African, being a millennial, even though I don't look like it, many multinationals have taken the youth out of me. And today, as I speak to you, pretty much like the golf day, in competing for work is one of the reasons why I will have to talk to the brand Citrix. But more importantly, I'm here to talk about Africa and what Africa means for Africans, right? And I think that really is the theme of today. Um, I think we've all been through many lived realities. For somebody like myself, coming from South Africa, the big change, from apartheid to being a free African nation. And I think the new world was spun into very different reality post-COVID. And I think what it has driven in all of us is a sense of, belonging in this digital transformation world. For those businesses and governments that were ready, for those that reacted in a different way, somehow the human race is what has brought us together to Diani today. Sitting in a room together is testament that the human race will conquer. And I think, in thinking of these topics, it is really important that we understand, to the point of the other co-host, is that we plant the trees. It almost as if he stole my last slide, but we'll get to that, as we go through the day. And I think, where this new connected world has gone is really around being able to work from anywhere, forged through a pandemic. Whereas today, the world is very different. And many of us as leaders, as governments, as connected people, now find that our workforces have the choice. And that choice across the world is something that we all need to consider, not just because of retaining talent, but for people, individuals who want to watch their kids play soccer, while being able to approve leave or mundane tasks. And I think in this new world, the future of work is everywhere. And I think once we work through these sessions, we'll understand that businesses find themselves somewhat in these quadrants. And I know the previous speaker already spoke to the text that is not rendering, so I do apologize for that. But I think we found ourselves in a world, and I think Kenya as well has found itself in a very interesting place of the gig economy, where freelance workers seem to be very much part of the workforce now, being able to do something whether businesses choose it or not. And I think that's been one lived reality that we found ourselves in. We've also found a new lived reality through technology around being able to be powered productives. And I think in that world, we've looked at technology as the enabler for what I speak about, whether you want to work from anywhere, be in Diani, still closing the quarter as I was introduced as a sales lead, and continuing to do business while being here. I think, more importantly, as the theme for today, is how these plugged-in platforms like AI have also augmented the workforce. And we've even moved through a lived reality in Africa, in South Africa, and in the world of process automation, whether that be robotics process automation or just standard process automations. And these have all changed the lived reality of enabling technology for all of us to work together. I looked at this picture, when preparing this deck, and coming from South Africa, living in the capital city for all of my life, made me think about my children. And for the many times that I was given the opportunity to leave the African continent, I've stayed in the same place for the last 39 years. And I've stayed there for a few reasons. One, we find ourselves very much connected in Africa. There is no other hope unless we stay and build it for those small trees that we speak about and living in the shade. And I think, for all of us, government officials, ourselves as business leaders, we all need to appreciate that there are gaps to now. In terms of planting those trees, service delivery, and other topics need to be accelerated at a rapid pace. We speak about 2063. We also need to think about now. And I think what we need to think about in all of this, as part of this journey, is to really be inclined at future proofing both our organizations and the workforces to come. Many of us, and I've spoken about myself being a millennial, there are some in the room that are baby boomers, veterans in the organization, ready to leave. And I come back to my own son, who was born 4 days before lockdown, is part of the Generation Alpha, and he is not a digital native anymore. He's really married, built, whatever you want to say, hardwired to a screen. We go out, we play football. His first natural instinct is not to hug his mother, but to find his iPad after a long day of work. And this is the reality we all need to understand. For those of us who have kids, for those of us who have our own lives, sometimes after a long day, the screen seems to be hardwired, even when you're lying next to your better half. This is the new reality. And what we need to consider specifically to this picture, people in the room would know that the revolving threats around cybersecurity become one of the great enablers for us protecting data, protecting identities, and to live in this connected world. And I think as Citrix, our motto specifically is to secure the work. We understand for a long time that we have been able to virtualize desktop infrastructure. We've really worked around enabling the core, building around it. And I think in the theme of what I've discussed, Citrix has done a lot of investments in the kind of north-south pillar, which is building on technologies that really we've acquired over the last few years. And we've also bolstered some of our new technologies. And when you look at it from the network effect, we've also partnered very heavily with AWS and Windows. We've also partnered with Google Chrome to ensure that this environment that we live in today really gives us a better together story, where it's not an us or them, and it's really how do we virtualize this infrastructure the best that the client can move forward with. And I think, as we've said, our strength has been on the VDI. We've really done a lot of work in terms of strengthening our core around this. We're working around a lot of secure access points, securing the browser, as I've said. Going forward, this is not just within our own environments, but many of the applications today are accessed via the browser, and we are securing that. So I think, as we've said, trying to keep this to a minimal as a punt perspective, we are driving more value in the pillars, we're expanding our core, and we're optimizing PCs in the cloud. So ultimately, that is the message from Citrix. The big message for today is really around how we've augmented ourselves, how we've changed our business models from really becoming very tactical in the market to being more strategic. Being at events like this is really fostering a partnership for 10, 20, 30 years, and we're not really in the business of transacting for the now. We are really building the future of work through our engagements, through the way we go to market, and more importantly, we've really gone in to consolidate our offerings, simplify, and work towards localization. I think the key to all of this is localizing Africans for Africa as the key bedrock of how we go to market. As we innovate and automate, we have made a lot of investments into innovation, and we continue to go down that path. And I invite all of you to join us in the exhibition center to go into more details around the offerings. But ultimately, I will be here for the next 5 days, looking forward to partnering with anybody who's interested and looking at how do we make Africa a better place for us all. I think this is, a final slide that I've always looked at is we have a choice. That future for all of us is dependent on the choices we make today. We could either build fertile ground for the trees you speak about, or we can really destroy it. And I think ultimately this is the decision and the key point that I leave all delegates, senior members of businesses, consider that while we are here to do business in Africa, that we do it keeping in mind that future, those trees, those seedlings that we need to plant. And ultimately, all of us have this as a choice. We can do a deal, or we can ultimately come here to future-proof work on a number of factors. Skilling up Africans is one of them, and I, as a business leader, sign up for that. And I will make that a statement that everybody needs to understand that it is not really around the workforce of today, but the workforce of tomorrow and the 2065 that you talk about. Because ultimately, all of us have a choice. I thank you.